Welcome into the Batify podcast. I am Travis Creasy along with Ben Hayes. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great, Travis. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm hunkered down in the Bat Cave here in Fayetteville, Tennessee, and we are super awesome, excited, wonderful, all those great things that you can say about being with our wonderful, awesome guests. So much anticipation since July of 2019 to get this guest on. And I'm going to just go ahead and ask you, because I'm probably going to say it wrong, but is it Cayron or Cayron Mann?
It's Cayron Mann.
There we go.
You got it.
That's the way I've always heard it said. So
you hit it right.
Nailed it. Well, as I said, we're excited, Cayron, to have you on. I also reference you and call you Sister Man, so you so eloquently referenced there on the Batify questionnaire. But it is good to have you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here with you guys. Listen to you from the beginning.
Awesome. Yeah, and you gave us some great advice on podcasts and people to interview, and now here you are with us, and that's exciting, fun stuff. So, all right, tell us what you do for a living.
Well, these days I am a mental health counselor. I don't know why people do this sometimes, but I ended up being one of those people that changed careers sort of mid-career. I was a language arts teacher for about 15 years, and then decided to go into mental health counseling.
Wow, that's a lot of helping people.
It is, it is a helping profession, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Well, we, in being friends and seeing some stuff that you post on Facebook, I know you've got some interesting things that you like to tell us about that you're involved in. And we'd like to give you that opportunity, outside of, I guess it coincides with your mental health work.
Yeah. I'm blessed to be associated with Serenity Counseling in Florence, Alabama. Their website is serenitycounseling.shoals.org. We're located on Jackson Road. We offer really, I guess you'd say, unique counseling therapies, including play therapy, equine-assisted psychotherapy, as well as eye movement desensitization reprocessing. That's a mouthful, usually just known as EMDR. And we offer that to, I guess you'd say, the North Alabama, Middle Tennessee, Eastern Mississippi area.
Yeah, and let me say their facility is unbelievable. Just a gorgeous little spot of land. I mean, almost in the middle of town, but a little horse farm, I guess, is the best way to put it. And
that's right.
It is beautiful, pond. They really have a great place down there.
I can't believe I get to go to work there every day. It is,
yeah.
like Ben said, it is a horse farm. There's really not any riding per se, but the offices they're in the barn.
Yep.
It's always nice when you have a job like you were saying that you can't believe you get to go and do that every day. So that's awesome.
Well, Cayron, we've been associated for a long time. I've been at Highland Park for 12 years, and Cayron's a member at Highland Park. But also we were associated through Mars Hill long before that. But so part of the reason when we have this, we talk about these seasons of our life on this podcast of where there's been some difficulties and things that we've gone through. So obviously we want to hear a little bit about the season in your faith journey that has been sort of challenging for you.
Well, that season actually happened, I guess you'd say it began July the 8th of 2010. Mm-hmm. Just in a brief statement, my husband, Sam, of 24 years, died after suffering injuries in a motor vehicle accident that we were involved in.
What were some of the circumstances, I guess, around that challenge that kind of went along with that for you?
Well, the way things happen, there's just so many connections. Interestingly, we were driving home from Maywood Christian Camp after picking up our 8-year-old son, our 9-year-old niece, traveling north on Highway 43 in Colbert County, Alabama. I called my parents to say goodnight. It was late on a Friday night. Let them know we were almost home. And about the time I closed that flip phone, we hit some loose gravel. Sam really did his best to try to keep the Chevy Silverado from going off the shoulder. Unfortunately, there was some overcompensation that the vehicle just began sort of a rolling, a sliding, a rolling. We were transported to the hospital. Our son and niece and my injuries, they were actually pretty minimal. And Sam had some extensive injuries, but he was doing well for the most part. And 6 days later, I was signing discharge for transfer to an inpatient rehabilitation center. And without, well, there never is really any warning on that, but Sam suffered cardiac arrest and he died at 4:26 p.m. on July the 10th of 2010.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I remember that time well, much too well, as I know, not nearly as much as you do, but I know that was a very difficult time for you. Without that goes without being said. But what were some of your reactions, I guess, initially to all of that? Obviously, having a small child as well at the time.
Right, and trying to be okay with all those reactions, I guess you'd say. A lot of sadness, anger, devastation, heartbreak, a lot of confusion, and then, realizing loneliness.
I think I had forgotten until reading your response that you were actually in the vehicle with him. And I knew it was from Maywood.
That's right, yeah.
But, that's got to be difficult to be in the vehicle and, and I obviously had forgotten that it had been a couple of days. I guess in my mind, I thought, that it was pretty quickly there after the wreck, which I mean,
Sure.
like I said, time's short, but I thought that it was, that night in my memory that's what transpired. So that has to add some level of difficulty to the struggle to seem, to be kind of past the initial and then that happened.
Yeah, to have hope and then, things to go south, unexpectedly. You're right.
Yeah, I'll it's your story, obviously. But I remember that year, Horizons at FHU was the week after Maywood, the week after our Maywood, and I didn't go to Horizons very many times, but that was one of the years I went because I remember us talking on the phone several times that week, and kind of following his progress, and then got the word, and we came back from there, and just devastating news. So
It's interesting, the things that are foggy and the things that have a lot of clarity. And some of the things that have a lot of clarity are things like, I remember, I believe it was like a specific text of Ben saying, hey, this many people are praying, and
yeah.
Just helping instill that hope and getting us through there.
And that kind of brings us to the next question. How did God show up in that season of your life? I think that's something that keeps being bore out in every podcast that we have is the different ways that God uses people. And obviously we'll get to his church, but what were some things that you remember even from that time or even now that God shows up in this story, and in this time of need?
It's, I'm really glad that you asked that question when you have guests on your podcast, because it is so many diverse responses, but they all just come together, it seems. But for me, those moments, when you're trying to explain to somebody hey, I know I had a dream last night, but for the life of me, I can't give you any details. In some ways, it's kind of like that at times, but at those very moments when I just made a phone call to my brother Larry, it just seemed like seconds later and he was standing there by my side. So obviously, I won't say he broke speed laws, but it's possible. But okay, maybe he did, but it was as if he just appeared. And he was with me when the doctor came out to talk with me. And then again, it seemed like literally seconds after Sam died that then there were church members that were just appearing from nowhere. And I know that there were a lot of people there, but I specifically remember Kenya Hayes. I specifically remember Glenn and Judy Grubbs, and that's the way it is with anyone who goes through something like this. There's just people there standing with you, sitting with you, just being present with you at those moments. And they don't even have to say anything. They're just there and they're present.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot,
Yeah.
That it just means something to have somebody there. And, like we kind of joke about when Job's friends started opening their mouths, then that's when they messed everything up. But,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just seeing the faces and feeling the hugs and, whatever that means so much.
Yeah. I mentioned Kenya, but what I remember about Kenya was, literally seeing her come around the corner all the way down the hall. And just amazing how clear that is. I know I didn't really know how to tell our 8-year-old son. I didn't really know how to tell Cameron, or even to know if he should come to the hospital, or, what I should do. That was starting to churn. And then God showed up. A friend, it was actually a hospital employee, had come, I think, from surgery, had come from the operating room, standing there in her scrubs. And I think what she had to say, she had to make sure that I heard it. So she literally took my face in her hands and told me in just a couple of seconds that when her dad died, when she was 8 years old, she had not been asked. She had not been given the choice to see her dad. And I can remember her words. I'm grateful for her words. And I was able to see that our son, he wasn't too young to be given that opportunity to make that choice on his own, or at least, to be given that choice.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason why, one of the goals of this podcast is things like that, where, things that you learn, you pick up along the way that you can pass along. That's just an awesome story and tidbit when I was reading that, for her to have gone through that and in that moment go, wow, this is a chance to give some wisdom and some knowledge and experience that I would like to have. And obviously that's kind of what we want to do this podcast. So I may be jumping ahead a little bit here, but are there bits of advice that you would give in this situation?
I think it helped to accept what people were offering and what people were giving. A lot of times there were moments when I thought, no, I've got this. And then I was reminded, I don't got this. And that's what, listen, God's sending these people. And I think that might be a piece of advice to someone who finds themselves in this situation, to accept God's people and accept the help that's right there.
And I was thinking, you and I help with a team building activity with community action every so often. And one of the things that we talk about there is everything you go through sort of qualifies you to help somebody else through it,
Right.
And I thought about that with that comment about the lady from the hospital is, that was her little small contribution that was a big huge contribution.
Right.
And people think, well, I can't do much, I can't do anything, I feel helpless. Well, all of us have something to offer in those moments. And, even if it's, like you said earlier, a hug, a presence, and then sometimes things like that maybe you wouldn't think about, that, hey, this is a big moment for me that, I wished I'd had that chance. And so, it's given to him because of her. So
yeah, one of
it's pretty cool.
One of those for such a time as this moments.
Just want to take a moment as we get ready to ask the final question to our guests to encourage you, if you are in the market or looking to create your own podcast, to look at Anchor. That's what we use. As you listen, you may be thinking, if these two guys can do it, then anybody can, and that's absolutely true with Anchor. The best part is it's free. There's plenty of creation tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can also contact and have your guests on from different locations or right there in the room with you. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. It can be on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What is one unpopular opinion that you have?
I'm looking forward to this.
This is timely, isn't it? Because, when I first thought about this, I thought, this is going to be just a very boring opinion. However, I got to tell you, I'm just going to use the word. Stupid reality programs like The Bachelor. I just don't know. Just reality TV in general. It just irks me. Not to the point of even having any additional conversation about it. Because
hey, and the best part of this is that we probably won't air this podcast for a couple of weeks, but the best part is that The Bachelor ended yesterday.
That's right.
I don't even watch it, but I think it ended yesterday, and there's like posts all over Facebook. And I remember earlier today you posted, "Is it okay if I don't watch this show?" or something along that line. Like, is it okay if I'm not a fan of this show? Because everybody seems to be posting about it. So just perfect timing.
Just follow Blake Holloman.
Blake Holloman.
That's the only reason that I think I'm on Twitter, is to get the notifications from Blake Holloman as for what's going on with The Bachelor. And I know all about sports just because of my Twitter notifications from the Hollow Monster.
That's the thing is, can you even call it reality TV when a camera is present? Like, who's even really, you're either the extreme evil part of yourself, which is typically what comes out with me on screen, spiritual mayhem, or you're the super angelic version of yourself. And, and it's not real.
Yeah. But real. There was some emotions on there last night.
So, you watched it? Oh, okay.
Well, I heard about it.
Well, yeah.
That's what everybody was posting about.
There was
the
some
emotions.
Disbelief and wailing and gnashing of teeth, I believe. I love what y'all are doing. I love your podcast. And not just the podcast. I love what you do in your lives and the people that y'all help. And it's numerous, I can tell you.
Well, we appreciate that. And we really do appreciate you being on with us and sharing your wisdom, both from a understanding perspective because you've been through it, but also from a perspective of someone who is trained to help other people through it too. And so
well,
it's
thank
awesome
you so much,
to have
guys.
you aboard.